We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And welcome back to Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I remain your host, Mark Angelides, and we're joined by Liberty Nation's economics guru, Mr. Andrew Moran. Andrew, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So there's exactly one reason why I wanted to scramble you today, and that's to get your hard-boiled opinion on the egg crisis, or lack thereof, because we had, since Donald Trump's inauguration, we've heard a litany of discussion from Democrats and people in the left-leaning media, although I repeat myself, about egg prices and how Donald Trump's failing to fix egg prices, and he's focusing on all these other things, but he's not fixing egg prices, as if he went on the campaign stage with a chicken saying, cluck, cluck, I'm here to fix your egg prices. Although I do remember I think it was a Saturday Night Live thing about Trump chicken. See if our post coordinator can figure out to find that clip and insert.
Yeah, I know that one is.
So, Andrew, give me the saga of the eggs, please.
Well, it's no yolk, really. It's
no yolk. Right.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of the progressive lawmakers, they really turned this into a joke because they expected Donald Trump to solve eggflation in just 2 weeks of returning to the White House. It was absolutely absurd. Okay, so you look at the numbers. So in the CPI report show that over the last 12 months, egg prices have soared 58%. In just February alone, it climbed more than 10%. The problem is that those are actually lagging indicators, because if you look at the real-time numbers from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, you see a complete collapse of wholesale egg prices. The last number I checked, it actually collapsed below $4, and it's lower than before Donald Trump took office. So you're seeing the eggflation crisis start to dissipate.
So it's an interesting position, isn't it? Because you have for years, we had people in the Democratic Party saying, and in the media, and again, I repeat myself, that presidents can't control prices. Unless, of course, they put in price controls, which was floated at one point. But then Donald Trump gets in it, and so they start trying to use, I suppose, what's good for the goose is good for the gander in this respect. And saying Donald Trump isn't bringing down egg prices. But the egg prices have come down, and I'm wondering which version of reality is true here. Did Donald Trump bring down egg prices, or did egg prices come down and now we're just waiting for Donald Trump to take a victory lap, even though he didn't actually do anything to bring down egg prices?
The USDA they have a weekly update of the egg prices situation, and one of the contributing factors for the decline has been demand destruction. So that's an economics term whereby prices go up so much that people just don't want to buy it anymore. Therefore, that has allowed egg producers to catch up to any level of demand there was by increasing supply. I also think the other factor was because, of course, the market is always forward-looking. So the White House, it released a $1 billion 5-point plan to ease the egg prices of rocketing prices. A few of them included, providing relief to farmers. Another one was deregulating the industry, which is hard because a lot of it is state-run. The other one was investing in vaccines for chickens, which, of course, you would be hesitant to
well, as long as those chickens are social distancing and wearing little chicken masks, I'm sure be just as effective.
But because the previous administration, the only way it tackled the issue was just culling all the birds, all the affected birds. But
right, you're talking about the avian flu.
Yes. Yeah, so the new administration is taking a multifaceted approach. I think it's a multitude of factors of basic economics and public policy reaction to eggflation.
So it seems that the idea that you could do something about a whole market with a single policy prescription, I mean, that was just lunacy from the start, wasn't it? Every complex system inevitably, I mean, there's no such thing as just cutting the Jordan knot in this kind of circumstance. It needs an array. What we're having is the egg prices are coming down, which brings me very nicely on to gas prices are also coming down. And while that may elicit some cheers because it feels very much like we're back in 2017 where, gas was cheap and plentiful, which of course we'll get on to how this impacts business later, but personal household incomes, it feels very much like that. But it's not necessarily a good thing that gas prices are dropping, is it? Or is it?
Well, so I guess you're referring to something I shared in our private chat when it came to Market Watch. Market Watch had an article saying, "Oh,
Yes.
gas prices are falling below $3, but that's a bad thing for the economy." But my gripe is that when gas prices were steadily declining, they all started cheering and saying, "Oh, good job, President Biden." Okay, so let's look at the numbers. So the average, GasBuddy.com, it recently reported that gas prices are the lowest in March ever since the onset of since 2021. The American Automobile Association says the national average price of gasoline at the time of this recording, it was about a little above $3 a gallon. So those are positive trajectories for consumers and businesses, motorists, yada yada yada. Now you have to look at the reason why gasoline's prices are falling. So at the onset of the inauguration, oil prices just started tanking. So they're down about 7% year to date. They've fallen around 15% since, or about 12 to 15% since President Trump returned to the White House. Now, there are many reasons why this. One of them was because there's an expectation that the U.S. and the world economy would start producing more oil. Another factor was OPEC and OPEC Plus. They agreed to suspend the production cuts and start restarting output this spring or this summer. That's another reason. Chinese demand has waned because the economy is slowing. It's China's the world's largest petroleum importer. So that's been a considerable factor. Economic concerns that there's going to be less demand for gasoline and oil. So a lot of it is market based. Now, you and I have had this discussion whether the administration's policies is going to facilitate more output. Now, that's quite questionable because of the break-even point for the industry. But whether or not you're going to slash energy prices in half, as President Trump promised within 12 months, I think it's not very likely. But oil prices falling, that's been pretty. I mean, the president could take probably a victory lap early because of that.
Yeah, I would imagine the market reaction there has probably something to do with there's an expectation that Donald Trump is a pro-energy president, and therefore, as you say, the markets are forward-looking. That they're never based on what's happening today, but they've got this expectation that because of policies that Trump will implement or regulations that will be rescinded, there's going to be more of a glut of energy, and therefore they can get their energy supplies out, and that it creates an excess, so that it's a cheaper value or lower value on the cost of it. Then, so that's good for regular consumers. They can fill up their gas tank a lot cheaper. But let's talk about how this impacts businesses, because I suspect that businesses everywhere are going to be taking as much advantage as they can of this. And I know it's difficult for them to, obviously they can't use all of their energy requirements. Well, let's use them today, for the year ahead because it's energy. But there's a lot of positive impacts commercially, right?
Well, absolutely, because input cost pressures, I mean, they've been elevated for the last few years mainly because of energy. But energy affects a wide array of things, including the feed, because you have to produce the feed. So, yeah. So, I recently read a report from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and one industry that has been significantly impacted by inflationary pressures has been the manufacturing sector. The manufacturing sector, they've suffered about an inflation rate of between 3.5% and 6% over the last few years. Now, they think that in the year ahead, their inflation costs are going to remain elevated. But I sometimes wonder, are they taking energy costs into account for these manufacturing facilities, or what they produce, or how much energy that they consume? So overall, these energy prices, if they come down, if they continue, or at least at the very least remain where they are, that's going to have a positive impact for the broader economy. And that's also, of course, going to help with the inflation situation, outside of the core inflation aspect of the CPI report or the Fed's PC report or even PPI. That's going to lead to what's the term? It's a flood of lower costs for businesses across both the goods producing sector and the services economy.
I'm wondering how much of a part. Now, I'm not saying that Trump's an anti-green president, but he's certainly less wedded to the idea as previous administrations have been. And we notice it in Europe particularly, and in the United Kingdom specifically. Energy prices are monumental compared to the US. But there's this constant push to get more and more of the energy supply from what they term the renewables. And this is really just driving up costs like crazy.
Well, I think at least in the United States, the whole green energy push, I think it's slowly dying. I think that the new administration is creating an environment whereby it's all the above approach. So there you're gonna have the fossil fuels, you're gonna have natural gas, crude oil, gasoline, renewables, wind, solar. I think you have various different strategies to keep the power supply running or to fuel, let's say, artificial intelligence. So it's not going to be this hyper focus on building a windmill on the East Coast and killing the whales, as some people have speculated.
It's not killing them; it's just making them crazy so they kill themselves.
But the left.
That's true. That's actually true. That's the funny thing about. Well, the funny tragic thing about. Sorry, Karen.
I would say in the last few months, I think you can bet that the left never really cared about the climate, considering their hatred now for Tesla electric vehicles. Because you had Senator Mark Kelly the other day saying, "Oh, I'm getting rid of my Tesla and I'm going to buy this gas-guzzling Chevy Tahoe." So maybe once they start abandoning Teslas, I think they are abandoning now the green.
I reckon so too, Andrew. Right, we're going to be back with Andrew after this short break, discussing wider economic impact.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.